All right. So, for everyone coming in on BltzZ side, I'm the Night Sky Prince. You can also call me Ryan. I have been making Final Fantasy and JRPG related videos for 4 years now, which is completely crazy. I do this full time, basically. I am always working on something, cooking something up in the kitchen to to make you guys happy. Yeah, and Blitz here, he's just an incredible guy. Love this dude so much. I remember when I first stumbled onto this guy, I was like, who's this guy coming onto my turf? And then I started watching his videos and I was like, man, I really like this guy. He's got a great energy, great attitude. He's got a great smile. When he does that smile, you feel that wholesome energy. It's just like, I want to listen to this dude.
It draws you in, man.
It does. Yeah, bro. You just got that king vibe to you, bro. So
man, I appreciate that.
Of course, man. So tell us who you are and tell us how you got into Final Fantasy, bro.
Well, first off, man, this is a crazy experience for me, entirely, because when I started thinking about what the next form of content I wanted to make, which we'll get into, I used to do fighting game videos and fighting game content on YouTube. I wanted to go into Final Fantasy stuff, and obviously your stuff was the first forms of content to pop up. And just fast forward a year later to think I'll be sitting here regularly talking to you, that shit just blows my mind. That's I'm 100% a fan. I've been a fan since I stumbled upon you last year, and I really didn't expect to be here with you in the community and vibing and with everybody else. It's just a great experience overall, and it's the power of Final Fantasy is insane. Mm-hmm. It brings so many people together because there's so many different games that a lot of people had their first taste of in the entire series of itself, and not even that, just RPGs in general. Mm-hmm. And it's just it's just a blessing, man. I'm just happy to be here.
It is.
And yeah, but what the channel, what I do mainly, what I wanted to do originally was I was always a big Maximilian Dood fan. I love that guy. I've been watching him since 2012, and he predominantly makes fighting game content. And I had no idea he was a Final Fantasy VII fan, and I've always been a Final Fantasy VII fan since I was a kid. My cousins are a little bit older than me, so they always put me onto the cool shit. They put me onto Michael Jackson, they put me onto Final Fantasy VII, they put me onto Metal Gear, in the back over there. And it's just I grew up and had a very good supporting cast around me for my gaming habit. They put me onto the good stuff right away.
Yeah.
And that just full on led me into and my cousin into every weekend he would come over, and he'd always bring a new game. And when we had first moved to Florida, he came along with us too, and he was staying by us for the weekend. He's yo, I'm gonna bring this new game. It's called Final Fantasy, right? I didn't know it was called Final Fantasy VII. It's just Final Fantasy to me. So we played this game. We absolutely love it. We're we're gonna beat this game this weekend. Ha! We didn't get close at all. Not even close to beating VII.
Yeah.
And he had to go home. So when he went home, I'm damn, I really want to play this game. So I asked my mom if can we go and buy Final Fantasy? But back then, there was no GameStop. There wasn't you could really easily go out there and buy a game, and Walmart only had the newest stuff at the time. So we went to the flea market by me, and the flea market, the video game dude over there, he had a big cage and tent, and you have to go up there, tell him what game you want. He comes around the side, hands it to you, give him the money, he hands you the game. It's a kind of funny process. But we told him we want Final Fantasy, and this dude gives us the newest Final Fantasy at the time, which was Final Fantasy VIII. I was looking for 7. I had no idea. And get home, pop it in, the 8th intro starts, and I'm okay, this looks different. But maybe I'll see Cloud eventually. Then I start seeing Squall and Cypher fighting, and I'm oh god, this is a different game. And I'm terrified to tell my mom because you just dropped $50 on this, and I'm not trying to get my ass beat.
Oh my god, I relate to that so much. God, I relate to that so much. I actually have a similar story where I had asked for a Nintendo 64 for Christmas, and I think they were sold out at the time. And so my mom came home with the PlayStation 1, and I was livid. And it's actually funny because I ended up strongly preferring PlayStation after that. But it's just so funny that because moms, and especially at that time, they didn't know any better, so they just thought, I'm just gonna get some gains from a kid, and it was totally the wrong thing. But it ended up working well. And funny to think, I may not even be here having this conversation right now had those Nintendo 64s not run out and she had gotten me a PlayStation instead.
Yo, that's sick.
Yeah. And she ended up getting me a Nintendo anyway later on. So I didn't lose out on anything.
Shout outs to Ryan's mom.
She's great.
That is so wonderful.
She's wonderful. So before we dive into like the meatier discussions, because yes, chat, we will be discussing Remake. I know that's what y'all want to see.
Somebody said the Buster Sword in the background has them nervous because if it falls, no more. Yeah, that's putting a dent in my wood.
There we go.
Floor, I mean. But I took my time and I found the studs and I screwed those babies in with the most D's. I almost said D's nuts. The most D's screws to make sure that they stay up there and they don't fall. So no worries. My Buster Sword here, which also I made Trunks' sword myself, but the Buster Sword there, my friend Joe made that, and then also hold on, let me see Trunks' sword real quick.
Oh, what? This is like his sword from Dragon Ball Super. It's kind of it's a little rough around the edges, but yeah.
Oh, bro, I need something compact like that. So if somebody breaks into my place, I can't really beat their ass with this Buster Sword. It's not as efficient of a weapon. I don't know how Cloud does it.
It's actually covered in a plastic called Warbler, and so if you hit somebody with it, it's not like heavy or anything, but you can totally if you hit like a mother in the head, like it'll hurt pretty bad. It'll probably knock them out. And then the Buster Sword here, it's actually like foam for the most part. So yeah,
it looks metal.
Yeah, no. Well, if you rubber coat foam well enough, it does. Well, actually, only the edge is foam. The actual piece that contains the edge, the outer side, is it's like PVC actually.
That's sick. And you made that yourself?
Actually, I didn't do that. My friend Joe made that for me. Shout out to Joe. Joe, if you're watching this, love you, bro.
Yeah, Joe makes some fire stuff, man.
He does actually. He did this sick Judge Gabron cosplay. I have to show you sometime. Full suit of armor of Judge Gabron from Final Fantasy XII. It's amazing. So before we get into the meat of things, where we talk about FF7R and Final Fantasy XVI, I see you've started playing Final Fantasy XIV again.
Yeah.
What brought you back to the game, man?
Oh man, I have such a great relationship with that game. So I've always been a big MMO player. I've been on WoW, I've been on Black Desert, I've been on Terra, and of course RuneScape and all that. All pretty much the gateway MMOs from back in the day. And when Final Fantasy XIV originally dropped, I wasn't necessarily interested in it, but it wasn't until they released a demo on PlayStation 4, I think it was. What was that? 2014 or something like that?
Yeah.
I think that was when it was. I got into it around then, and I always play it 7 to 8 months out of the year and take a 4-month break, and then I jump back into it. And I did the same thing before Remake came out. Me and my cousins, we always do the same thing. We get together and we get our friends, we do raids, and we just no life the game for months. And then when something happens, we take a little break and then we all jump back into it. However, when Remake came out, that just completely threw a wrench in their plans for me, joining them, because I just been making videos all about it. And it's just, for me personally, I have such a hard time finding time to actually play games and enjoy them when I'm constantly thinking of new videos to make, it's the whole creative process for me. Everybody goes through it differently, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I got friends and stuff that hit me up and they're like, bro, you ain't been on Warzone in a year. What are you doing? And I'm like, man, it's been a year? I've been playing this one game for a year. Holy shit.
Yeah. Actually, I think it's really healthy to sort of take that break, especially from a game like 14-2, where there's just so much content and so much stuff. And then after a while, you do kind of you feel that like burnout for a little bit, and then it is good to take breaks from an experience like that every now and then.
Shadowbringers was hard to take a break from because it was just so good. Like there was like the music was great, the content was constantly coming out as well, and it was like the first time in I would say like in Final Fantasy XIV where I was up to date and like at the very like, you know, most current patch, and I had like the best armor, the best in slot gear, the best materials like slotted in and stuff. Like I was going ham with like my samurai. Like I wanted to be like up there in like the rankings and shit, and like doing crazy DPS and stuff. Like that's the part about like MMOs that I absolutely love, is like when you get to the very end game of it, and now it's like you have the best of the best armor. Everybody has this armor, but you have to get specific materia to push that armor a little bit further, you know, give it a little bit of a tweak here and there, you know. And with that, I think I had left off around the time when like Eden came out. Like that was around, we did it a couple times, and then I believe it was March, and I just said you know, I'm gonna take a little break, play some Warzone and play some other stuff. But man, I always go back to 14 every year, and recently I jumped back on because, well, your hype messages, bro. You got me hyped back to go back on it. I've been playing it for a long time. I'm like, you know what? They do have a trial that lets you play up to level 60, right?
My dude, and chat, believe this or not, he stopped at 5.2.
Yeah,
he stopped at 5.2. This man has not played 5.3.
I'm at the very first quest of 5.2. I logged on the other day and I checked it. I went on the wiki and checked. I'm like, oh, this is the very first quest of 5.2. I need to play this because I keep hearing Night Sky talk about 5.3.
Chat, ratio this man and make him play 5.3. Ratio. Go on Twitter and ratio this man right now until he plays 5.3.
Yo, do it, please. I need to bathe in those tweets, please. I need something to push me to do it as well, because you know this month is going to be pretty crazy hectic for me personally, you know, with all the new juicy stuff coming out, not just like Final Fantasy, but like Guilty Gear drops next week too, and that's going to be like a jump back into like, it's going to be like a blast from the past for me personally, going back into fighting games like that.
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking forward to Guilty Gear 2. Hopefully you can show me how to combo like crazy.
Oh, I got you, man. You're gonna know the fundamentals. You're gonna know the bread and butters, man. You're gonna be a force to be reckoned with.
That's what I want, man. That's what I want. But speaking of E3, I gotta know, bro. What are you most looking forward to from Square Enix at E3? What do you think's gonna be there?
Final Fantasy 16.
Final Fantasy 16. Let's go.
There's no way that they show us one trailer and like almost like when did they show us that trailer? Was it August last year?
I think September. August or September. No, it may have been August. I think you're right. I think it's August.
Yeah, and I'm like, what? Like, we can't make it a full year without some other information besides like the website stuff. So come on, man. Yeah. Come on, man. Give me that 16.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 16 has to be like the big thing, and I feel like they really need to alleviate some concerns. I think primarily with like party members and stuff, because a lot of people are concerned that there's just not going to be party members at all. I don't know if that's going to be the case.
Me too, you know, and I agree with that worriment too, because for me, a big part of Final Fantasy is the party. Like, you know, like being able to switch. You're not just playing as this one guy or as one character this whole time. You can switch between other ones, you know. And that's another reason why I liked 6 a lot, because you could just put whoever you want as like, you know, the front, and like you walk around as them, and it's like, you know, like I always put like Celeste as the front because I always thought her character was pretty cool. Yeah, she's like a rune knight, bro.
I love her. Yeah. Oh, we got Yuna Leska in the chat. Hello, Yuna. How you doing?
Bro, did I say Final Fantasy 6 and she got summoned here?
literally, as you mentioned, like Final Fantasy VI, I like see like her message like pop up, and she's like, "Hey,
what's up, Yuna?" And she said, "I heard Final Fantasy and I felt summoned. I hope everyone's well."
Oh my god, that's great. That's like perfect timing. That's like perfect timing. Oh man. So speaking of like Final Fantasy and E3, do you play like the Soulsborne games, and are you excited for like Final Fantasy Origin? Assuming asterisk mark that it's real. we do have some reliable sources. We assume that it's real, but are you a Souls fan? Are you excited for this?
Hell yeah, those games push you, and I love that. Like, to be like your back's against the wall, all you have is a parry, or you can dodge, and it's like you're gonna get either way. So it's like I love that aspect of it. I my favorite one out of them all is Bloodborne. There's just something about like parrying people with a gun. It's the most ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous thing ever, but it's so satisfying.
Right.
So satisfying. Bloodborne is so dope. Love that game. Dark Souls 3 I have on PC, but I did not really play much of it. But I would love to see. I would like to see Bloodborne 2 stuff as well. But I mean, that isn't Square, of course. But in regards to a Final Fantasy game potentially being like that, that is gonna be that is something special. And it's such a great time to be a Final Fantasy fan, because I mean, I know there are some people that are like I wouldn't say against, but don't necessarily like that they are kind of going a different direction from the turn-based style. And it's not to say that there probably won't be any turn-based stuff. I'm pretty sure they still will have their turn-based games coming around here and there once they pick up their development process. But I'm hella looking forward to seeing all kinds of new genres of like Final Fantasy. Like, what other kind of media can they step into? Like, I've been really obsessed with First Soldier recently, and I thought I was gonna hate that game.
How is First Soldier? Like, tell me about your experience with it.
Frustratingly addicting. I find myself laying in my bed, right? And I'm just like, my girl's like sleeping next to me, and I'm just like trying to play this, and I'm trying not to like rage while she's there, and it's like, you can't like, it's just the controls. Like, I'm not great on like mobile controls, and when you plug the controller into it like wirelessly, it's okay, but it's like not perfect. And it's just like, man, you see the potential of what it can be and how much better or how much more people could enjoy it. And it's just like, man, I'm just waiting for like, an update, for something to be able to, run it good. And I've even tried it on BlueStacks, and I remember I got a new graphics card. I have like literally the best graphics card on the market, and
you
it
got a 3090, right?
Yeah, and it can't even run BlueStacks TFS. It can't run First Soldier. I tried so many times last night.
Well, it might be because because it's having to emulate such like a high-end like mobile game. It's probably not that optimized either, and so it's probably
I sent in so many tickets to BlueStacks, because when you go on their Reddit, they're just like, yeah, submit a ticket so we can work on it. I submitted like 5 tickets so far, different names.
Yeah, because before the beta for that game dropped, everyone was sort of like, I ain't playing that on mobile. I'm immediately dropping that in on BlueStacks and playing that. And then I'm never going to touch it on an actual phone ever. And now trying to play it on like BlueStacks, it's just not working. So everyone's kind of like locked into to having to play this on their devices. And like right now it's like only available for Android, which is basically my karma for getting to play Fantasian. When all the Android people couldn't play Fantasian, but so that's actually interesting, because I kind of thought that First Soldier would be a very dead on arrival game, because I was like, what experience does Square have with making a battle royale game?
Yeah, and it's funny because most battle royales that I play, obviously it's more like gun centric. Like the guns are like, you need to get like the legendary weapons and all that stuff to be able to smash people and like get to the top, but meleeing is so good in this. And like being like the warrior class, like with their range on their sword and how like they charge at people, it is so, I don't know what it is about getting a melee kill in this game that's so much more satisfying than, well, you can't really get a melee kill easily in other battle royale games. I mean, Fortnite, the pickaxe takes forever to kill somebody. Warzone, I mean, you can kind of, I guess, but it's not that easy as well. But just First Soldier has elements that I see in the future. If they expand on it and they improve in a lot of areas, it'll be a fantastic game for quite a while that I'll definitely be playing. I know it's not for everybody, but I've always been a big like, I've always been in love with like the shooter genre, and like there's something about like battle royales that bring out the competitive nature in me that just I absolutely enjoy.
Right. But I think like one of the things I think about like when it comes to the success of the First Soldier is that even if it is a good game, I kind of like look at the audience that it's marketed to, and I think, is there enough overlap between Final Fantasy fans and people who are willing to play a battle royale? And that's kind of what I'm like worried about. And the funny thing too is I feel like if you have any experience in like battle royale games and you come into this game, you're probably gonna dominate, because it's a whole bunch of Final Fantasy fans who have never played a battle royale game in their life, and they have no idea what they're doing. You probably clap some cheeks like real easy.
Yeah, like my cousin, we went out to dinner last night, and one of my cousins, he's not a big Final Fantasy fan, but me and my other cousin were talking about how they have First Soldier is out, and it's like a battle royale, but he loves battle royales, and he was like, "What? There's a new battle royale and Final Fantasy? How does it even work?" And I was like, "Go check it out, man." So he got it on his phone, and this morning he texted me. He's like, "Bro, this shit is addicting." And I was like, "Okay, yo, he doesn't even like Final Fantasy. Let's go."
Okay, that's a good sign. I think it's a good sign for the game whenever someone who is not necessarily biased toward Final Fantasy can get into it, especially when they've had time in that genre. I think that's where they've been messing up with like the mainline Dissidia, because it's like it doesn't satisfy people who would be into like FGC, but it also doesn't satisfy like Final Fantasy fans, because they gutted out the story. And so like Dissidia NT, and now they're just like stuck in like this weird place where it doesn't satisfy either end of those consumers.
I was so hyped for NT when it was like when it was being showcased, and I was like, "Man, yo, this looks insane," because for a long time as a business in high school, I used to hack PSPs, and people would like, ask me like, what games you want to put on there or whatever. So I would put like, I put Crisis Core on there, and I put like, Dissidia on there, and people absolutely loved it. I put a lot of people onto Dissidia that just weren't even Final Fantasy fans. They thought it was pretty cool, And then NT eventually comes out, and it's just like, it's not the same, man. Like the whole 3v3 combat is just the way the story is. It's just, I'm not really into that. And when the beta dropped immediately and I played it, I was like, yeah, probably not gonna be playing this, unfortunately. It's the worst feeling, when that happens.
Yeah, they wanted it to be an esports so bad, but they made all these decisions, I feel like, that just made it not so. Like the P2P like netcode versus like
server based.
Versus like having dedicated servers. And I'm just like, you want people to play this as like an esport, but you also want them to have like peer-to-peer connections where I'm just like, and you really thought that'd work? And then you had to have, and then it's 3v3, and I think that was like the worst part. So you have 6 people on the map, and if just one person has the audacity to lag, then the whole match is like a slideshow.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand like what they were thinking.
And it's crazy because you just jump one person, take them out early, and then it's a cakewalk after that. You just all you got to do is coordinate and jump people, really.
And that's really what it was. It didn't have the same feel as like the first 2 games. The first 2 games were amazing. Super amazing. I was a big fan of those. So
I played those back a lot.
Yeah, those were amazing, and they just have not been able to replicate that feeling since. Actually, the guy who worked on Dissidia, the first 2, he's actually one of the battle planners for Remake. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, because he worked on Kingdom Hearts 2. And then he worked on the Dissidia series. And like when you play Dissidia, you can feel a little bit of that like Kingdom Heartsy like type movement and feel to it as well.
Yeah.
And then now he works on like Remake. And I also think they have like one of the guys from like Monster Hunter. And that's why Remake's combat system is so good, is that they actually got some staff that knew what they were actually doing when it came to, to like actually making an actual action combat system. I wish they did that with 15. They did not.
I think you could see it in 15 that that's the direction they were trying to go with, but then they realized, okay, we weren't able to execute to the level that they originally sought out to do, and but seeing is like, because obviously like Remake came out a year ago, and seeing like Intermissions DLC, like Yuffie's combat from however long they've been developing this, I don't know, but it's like seeing Yuffie's combat and the way it is right now, holy, like I am hella excited because that is just a taste of like what's to come for like the future of the series. And I'm sure you could agree as well. The combat is like the main best part of like Remake.
Oh, for
and
sure.
it's just so fun. It's so fun. It's addicting, and I love the unique variety you have, obviously with materia builds and stuff, which is one of the reasons why my channel did so great, because I had so many different unique builds that I would like come up with and just be like, hey, self-destruct yourself and you get an instant limit break, but because you have reprieve on your weapon, you will survive it. This is how you do it.
Yeah.
But like, I think that is such a great tell for the future of like Remake 2 and like the future of the series, that the combat is definitely going to keep improving tenfold for each one. It's crazy.
Yeah. Combat, I have no doubt that they will do great with. Honestly, they've done great with combat so far. Honestly, I've had no real complaints. There are some minor stuff like like doing like your limit break and then the boss decides it's like time for a cutscene, which is not as bad on like your second and or subsequent playthroughs, but on your first you're just like, what the
Yeah, because I would save limit breaks and I'm like, I'm gonna whoop your ass once you get to this amount of health, and then I'll use it and it's like, no, fam, there's a cutscene and I'm not taking any damage.
Yeah, so if they could like come up with like something like to fix like minor issues like that, or to do something about like when you're fighting inside of like tight corridors and like the camera just goes insane, or aerial combat, it's minor stuff like that, stuff that you don't spend like a terrible amount of time doing in the game, probably because they designed it knowing that stuff was not as strong as it should be, so they tried to keep you mostly in the stronger areas. But I think if they can refine that, they have probably one of the better combat systems, if not the best one in the franchise, in my opinion. I think because of what you were mentioning, you have that traditional sort of like higher level Final Fantasy strategy, and it doesn't feel like it's gutted out to make it like an action game, right? Like 15, for example, or it felt like they gutted out all the Final Fantasy to make it more actiony. Like,
I didn't use magic at all in 15 when I played it. Like the little like ball.
It didn't feel good. Them, right? It didn't feel good.
And it's like, man, like you think Final Fantasy magic attacks, you know what I mean? Like you gotta. And I like the element aspect behind it. Like, if it's like, you can combine it with other elements that are like nearby to create more damage. That's cool, but it's just like for that world, I was kind of hoping to see a better twist on like the way you utilize magic.
Yeah, like it's the first Final Fantasy you can play, and there's like no cure spell or anything, but you can just spam items. And I just I think about that a lot, and I'm just like, why did they have this set up like this, where it's a Final Fantasy game, and magic are grenades? And there's no way to use any other magic other and all you can do is just hit things with different weapon types. And I just thought that was just kind of disappointing. But I think the biggest problem I had with 15 when I recently replayed it was the fact that enemies don't telegraph attacks.
Oh man, I got messed up so many times like that. Anticipating something and it's like, okay, it's not coming, and I try to hit and then I get hit by it. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah.
Enemies don't telegraph at all. And I think that everyone else, whenever you ask them about their criticisms of like 15's combat, it's always like, oh, hold circle or hold square to win. And I'm just like, or they'll say something like spamming items or something like that to heal, whatever. But for me, enemies not telegraphing was way bigger, because any sense of reward that I could have gotten is diminished because enemies just kind of randomly attack rather than me like predicting. Like half the time, I don't even feel like I ever even know when to block, other than like a parry, when it comes up, it tells you, it screams at you to parry. But other than that, like I never like really knew when to block or when to attack, because the enemies didn't telegraph, so they would just do like random things. And I just kind of had to like deal with it whenever it came out. So I was just like, okay, this is just not
you could tell they were going through some stuff, because when Type 0 came out, right, when Final Fantasy Type 0 came out, it came with a demo that lets you play Final Fantasy 15. I think it was called Episode de Ska.
Yeah.
And it's a completely different build, like, from obviously what released like later on, and the gameplay is entirely different. Like, I feel like the camera's a little more zoomed in, the parry works a little bit better, and it just felt like the combat was completely changed in like the final product, and I'm sure they had a reason for that, but to me it's just you could tell that they just had some like identity issues with that whole thing.
Yeah, they really did. All right, oh, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
I was just saying, but it like led to great things with like future games with like Remake and like future Final Fantasies, because they all take things from each other. What did the last one do so well? They take the great things that people liked, or the things that people didn't like, and then they put them in the newer ones and polish them up, make it good.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like they've only gotten better at doing this as they've gone along. They've gone out of their way to hire the actual talent that they need to, and not just try to get their current employees to figure it out. And I think that's true for 16 as well, with them hiring one of the battle designers for Devil May Cry to work on 16. Which personally has me excited.
That's a power move right there.
Yeah. Oh man, dude, I can't wait for your combo videos come out.
Oh, yeah.
All your because you're probably going to be able to do so much combat wise in that game, judging from like who's working on it. Oh man.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It's gonna definitely be a unique experience for Final Fantasy.
Yeah. I just want to be able to do like a crazy like mid-air combo, and then sort of to be able to pop out like that remake style command menu and like be able to pick from like magic and stuff. That's what I want to see from it, right? Because I like remakes more like grounded style, where it's more weighted. I kind of want 16 to still have that command menu, but I want it to be like more action gamey, and you're still popping that like command menu up too and doing stuff.
Hell
like
yeah.
that.
More juggles, man. It's all about the juggle combat.
Yeah.
Like Yuffie has an insane amount of juggle combats and combat abilities I've seen. And Tifa generally has it with like Chi Trap, right? But it's entirely situational, because like Chi Trap really only juggles enemies that are like humans or like smaller monsters. Whereas it looks like Yuffie's juggling everybody. Like I saw her like tossing those spider monsters. I forgot what they were called. You kind of fight them with Aerith.
I never know monster names. I'm bad at that.
Oh, sorry, you don't fight them with Aerith. It's like chapter 5, I think. It's like that the segment when you're going through the subway with Tifa and Barrett.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Those arachnids or whatever, like those things, like Yuffie's juggling them, and I'm like, yo, these are like heavy planted like monsters. How is she like bouncing them up? Like, it's crazy. And I think that if that's the direction they're trying to go with in Remake, perfect. Grass strikes, yes. Thank you, Dark Moon.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, her the way she controls, or at least from what we can see from those of you watching the VOD or watching on YouTube, this is before the episode comes out, but from what we can see in there, it's pretty much everything I've always wanted from playing as Yuffie. It feels like what I thought it would feel like watching like Advent Children. Like I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is what Yuffie should play like. So now I'm like conflicted though, because it's like, bro, like I obviously I was biased towards like Tifa's combat. I think hers is like my favorite, but clearly like Aerith is the most powerful in the game. Like where her magic is ridiculous, but Yuffie, I don't even know what to say about her, bro. Like she looks way too good. She's like, to me, like I haven't gotten to play as her yet, but seeing what we've seen in that footage, the stuff that she's doing and the capabilities she has, she's like all around like super balanced. Like she doesn't even need elemental materia. She has like an ability that imbues her weapons with elements. So like if you want to do like wind damage, you could put wind damage on her with it's a ninjutsu. It's a ninjutsu art. And that's crazy to me. I'm like, yo, you just completely eliminated the use of one materia that I didn't even have to have. I don't even have to have on my build anymore. Now I can be more flexible with stuff. Yeah. So you think she's gonna get nerfed in the second game?
Oh man, that'd be such a tease to like show off how amazing she is in this, and then just like completely nerf her in the part 2. I would hate that so much.
Yeah.
If anything, I would think all the other characters would get equally buffed.
Yeah, that's the appropriate way to do it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't believe in nerfs ever for even like a fighting game, unless it's like something stupid. Like I prefer like buffing all the other characters and just letting everybody have fun.
Yeah. I think that's like a common design philosophy I hear a lot within like the fighting game community, that it's better to buff everyone else than to like nerf a character.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you a totally unloaded question. Just a very casual question. Does Aerith die in Remake?
It's a casual question, eh? I don't think she dies. I don't think she dies, and it's not like that I don't want her to die. It's just that I can't see it happening.
Interesting.
Like I can't either. See it. I can't see it happening with like Sephiroth. Like her death directly influences his loss at the end of the original game. Like Holy came, but Holy didn't really necessarily stop Meteor. Spoiler alert for Final Fantasy VII original, but Meteor didn't really stop. Holy didn't stop Meteor. The live stream did. The live stream came and full on assisted Holy and stopped Meteor. And to me, I'm sure Sephiroth knows that. So it's like, why would he? If anything, he'd probably kidnap her and be like, "Yo, I'm just gonna hold you. You ain't going nowhere. You ain't gonna talk to your friends or nothing like that. Give me that holy material." Grabs her right out of her hair and just like, keep away with her. I don't think that she dies. I just can't see it. Because then if she does die, then what? What's Sephiroth gonna do? This sucks. Fine, I'm just gonna go back to another time and try
and try again, right? I've kind of find it hard to see her dying under the assumption that Zack is indeed alive. Mm-hmm. Which, from everything that we've seen, from every interview that's been put out, there really is basically no reason to believe that he's not alive. A lot of people I guess, don't want that to be the case because because it becomes a wildly different story at that point, because Zack's death is like more or less the foundation for everything that happens. And so if that's undone, if he's revived, then everyone's like, oh no. Well, then how do you even remotely tell the same story if the foundation has been ripped up from others? So I think just him being back, even if it's in a different timeline, which I can't imagine timeline saying separate. It's like how many multi-timeline or multiverse things do you know where they do stay separate? Some people think it's a time loop, but I think that whether it's a time loop or a multiverse or something, any of those things along those lines, the fact of the matter is that he is in some way back. And if he's back, whether it's a different timeline or whether it's a time loop and somehow he's been revived, he's coming into play. He's coming into play. And the question is going to be how? And knowing that he's coming into play, it makes it hard for me to believe that Aerith will die, but the guy who is already dead will be alive again.
Yeah.
And it will stay alive unless he dies too. But if then everyone who was supposed to die originally re-dies, then we got Final Destination.
Yeah. Final Destination, Final Fantasy Final Fan Destination, yeah.
Right? So and I can't imagine them doing that, but I think a lot of the fan theories revolve around how those things are still going to happen, even though they don't make sense for the current setup.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how it all unfolds and plays out. I still personally hope that Zack being alive is just a separate title game that we get to play, where it's a what if scenario game of if Zack did survive, this is what happens and this is how it plays out and all that stuff. Completely separate title that comes out after Remake is done, but I'm pretty sure that's not going to be the case. Yeah, I mean, in the DC universe, like the animated like films, there's a lot of them that focus on different like the multiverse, and they don't actually even associate or directly meet with the main universe. Like they call like Earth 0 and stuff like that. Earth 1, Earth 2. Like I'm thinking that maybe it'll be something of the sorts where we get a separate game or a separate DLC even to, follow Zack around and see different perspectives. Who knows? Maybe they'll remake part 1 and have Genesis be the one that's following Zack around and tormenting him like what Sephiroth is doing with Cloud.
Oh my gosh, that would be
except it's worse because he's reading love lists to him nonstop.
So do you think that part 2 is going to be a big divergence from what we've been seeing, or do you think it's going to be mostly the same and then diverge at the end, sort of like what we've seen with the first game? Or what are your thoughts?
I think it most definitely will be that way. I think it's going to follow a similar roadmap, and then something crazy might change up the way that it ends in a different way than we anticipated it. And based off of also, and I'm not even trying to base my thoughts off of what the devs have been saying, because they've already said this for Remake Part 1, but they said that the story isn't going to change, or nothing will be the same story that you all know and love will be it'll be the same going forward. Or recently somebody said something and I can't remember what. I don't remember if I covered it or not, but I remember somebody saying that the roadmap essentially will be the same and follow along the same story. And somebody wrote a comment about it, and I don't know why it's leaving me right now because I was thinking about this.
I think you might be talking about, this is just a guess, but I think you might be talking about this quote from Nomada that came out when he was talking about episode intermission. And he more or less said that he was asking why they chose Yuffie over Vincent or Sid, and he said, well, it follows the original story, and so because of that, Vincent is still sleeping in Shinra Mansion and Sid's still in Rocket Town.
Yeah.
And so I guess everyone took that and read that as it's not diverging at all, but I didn't really read it that way personally. To me he's just basically saying it's a gray space area that they could play around with and have extra content for that doesn't affect or change things that happen in the original. Right. I think what he basically meant that it's more they are not changing fundamental things where a character is from. Yuffie is no longer from Wutai or something crazy like that. Yeah. I think that is more what he was saying versus oh no, this is still more or less following what the original plot is overall. Because I don't think that, I think that what we have already, you already can no longer just default back to what that was. You can't just introduce the stuff that they introduced and then not address it. The Arbiters, for example, right? When they showed them the ending of Final Fantasy VII, and the Naki's this is what happens if we fail here today, right? So literally showing them that FF7 and then showing them okay, we have to diverge from the original FF7's path, right?
Yeah.
And making that into a big story thing in the game. So it literally can't be that that's a big plot thing and then somehow everything is still the exact same.
What if they're trying to tell us? What if they're trying to tell us that the original Final Fantasy VII, the way that it ends, it actually technically is the bad ending because humans eventually 500 years from then eventually wipe out and die out. I mean, that's what we are led to assume at the end of the original game. And what if their path or different things that they're going to be doing along, the new story of Remake or the new story that they're going to follow, what if it leads to a different ending where we don't get wiped out? At the end. That's what I'm thinking, what Red 13's sentiment about that was too, because I always wondered too, the beginning of Advent Children shows that scene, right? A remade scene of Red 13 running 500 years later with 2 cubs, and he looks at Midgar and it's completely covered in vegetation and foliage and all that stuff, right? So to me it's that then it jumps into Advent Children. It shows us a universe where Geostigma gets wiped out, you know, like at the end. What if like that beginning segment is like, oh, this is what if they didn't beat Geostigma, you know what I mean? It's so weird to like try to explain it, but it's almost like Red saying that, oh, like, yeah, the original game, that wasn't the good ending, by the way.
Yeah. Well, Lily Bunny here makes a good point in the chat. She says, see, I don't know if I would assume that because apparently there's children's laughter, and I'm pretty sure that is like a sound effect that you hear.
In the original game?
If I'm remembering correctly, I want to say that she's right about that is there. I have to like go pull the ending up again.
I might beat it tonight, so I'll definitely check it out again.
Pay attention. Yeah, but that would kind of imply that humanity is not dead. But in either case, though, I actually kind of liked the idea of humanity being dead at the end of Final Fantasy VII. I know it's kind of like nihilistic, but I felt like there was like this huge like warning message at the end where it was just sort of like it was basically like more or less telling you, like, if you don't care about the planet like right now, this is our future, this is what's going to happen to us. And it's just kind
directly directly pulling the planet's resources and utilizing it for electric power energy in a giant city that's constantly pumping out the life energy. Yeah, it's going to piss off the planet, and you know, like, you know, it'll defend itself in a way. It's kind of like when last year we all had to, you know, quarantine and we all like stayed in our houses. You started seeing like animals and stuff return back to like areas and like chilling out like in the open, and it's like, what? Like, makes you realize humans are kind of like the disease in a way.
Yeah. Someone said it could be Nanaki's children's laughing, and now I imagine like these like little Nanaki doggos like laughing. And I'm just like, oh my god, how would that even? I was like, I don't know if it would sound like that, but that would be interesting, right? Yeah, I with humanity, if humanity not being wiped out is the only change, then I still don't know how I'd feel about that, because then I would kind of ask, like, why would we go through the whole situation with the arbiters just for it to be that one thing at the end that sort of pays off? But clearly it cannot be that one thing at the end, because we have Zack back. So there is that. And I think, you know, I've heard so many fan theories about how things could go, but Zack really seems to be the wild card, because everyone can like really theorize on where they think this will go, right? Like, it's really easy to just say, oh well, the implication is that Sephiroth somehow got informed from the future, traveled back in time, maybe hear more Aerith, and now he's informed, and he's trying to, you know, recreate Final Fantasy VII, but this time he wants to diverge the timeline just enough so that he can win. Surface level, that's fine, but then when you have to throw Zack in there, like the whole thing becomes like, it's like, where does Zack fit in, right? And then you see the different stamp, which indicates that, okay, this is not the same timeline. And then you're like, oh crap. So if
what happens? It cross over into the new timeline? Is a new timeline going to be something separate in the background that we get to witness ourselves, or is it just something they just wanted to flex on us and show us that, yo, this is going to happen in a different place and you're never going to see whatever happens from it? Like there's so many questions, man. And that's one thing that I really admired about like the changes with Remake, is because, I mean, we already know how the story ends, and if it does end the way that we, you know, originally thought it was going to, then we can't really sit here and have discussions like this or make crazy theory videos, you know? Yeah. So I think it's like, it's exactly what they want. They want us talking about their game. They want us like conversing with each other about these different elements and what we think is going to happen. And they want to see all these different videos and stuff, which is pretty cool.
Right. It's what I believe is a fantastic marketing decision, but I'm wondering if it's going to be a great storytelling decision. I think that's where I'm 50-50. Because as a marketing decision, you're right. What could be better than this? Than to have us discussing about it, to have us emotional about where this could go. As a marketing thing, it's like, oh man, it's like the perfect storm. Now, even if you're in my position where you just absolutely do not like this direction, you still have to play part 2. Because if you grew up with it, you just have to know where they're going. Even if you hate it, you still have to know, what are you doing with this thing that's so precious to me? Like, you have to know. From a marketing standpoint, I think you really could not have come up with something better in a sense, because it's just a way of like hooking you, like gripping you by the balls and like not letting you go. Like you just have to know. But my real worry is from what I know of analyzing stories, is trying to figure out, because I look at it from 2 ways. I try to look at it from the perspective that it is a retelling of Final Fantasy VII, right? And then I also try to look at it from the perspective that it's a sequel to Final Fantasy VII. And if I look at it as a retelling, I think the issue I come into is, okay, if it's a retelling, then why introduce so many elements that can be perceived as convoluted, and then ultimately ends up making those deliveries less effective, because you had to figure out all this lore stuff in the background in order to fully grasp what they were trying to do to make it more effective. So that just kind of dulls the impact, right? And then there's the perspective of it being a sequel, which I think to some degree is fine, but as a sequel, you had to like first tell people it was a remake, more or less, like lie to them, which again, not necessarily a bad thing. If it delights you, then it's a good thing. If it doesn't delight you, then you feel kind of off-put, because you're just like, this isn't bad, but I kind of ordered this off of the menu and then you brought me this. You ever go to a restaurant and then like you order something and they bring you the wrong thing, but then what they bring you actually looks kind of good and you end up eating it anyway? I don't know if anyone else has done that. I've done that.
Happened to me last night.
Oh wow, that's crazy. And then it still ends up being kind of good, right? But you're still kind of like, well, damn, but I ordered the other thing, right? And so I do think leaning into like that sequel territory, if that's what they're going to do, then I think that there is ways to make it still satisfying, but I think that as like a retelling, to come up with all these other things to maybe convolute it, to make it to use concepts that are somewhat jarring in the context of FF7 maybe, in order to like try to drive home things more, like trying to use like maybe like time travel or multiverse to make those big moments hit more. I'm not sure if that will actually land harder in the end, or if, because Final Fantasy VII arguably by some people was already somewhat convoluted, quote unquote. I didn't really think it was, but to some people it already kind of felt that way. And so to just to introduce multiverse into that, which is already kind of hard to keep track of.
It's not an easy task.
Right.
And they waited a long time to do this too, because they keep saying this. They finally get to tell the story that they've always wanted to tell of Final Fantasy VII, and it's kind of got me interested. I'm like, okay, so what did you want to do back then that you couldn't, like, that you're trying to do right now? I'm excited. It has me like peaked over there. But I get what you're saying. Like, multiverses are very difficult to
right.
to navigate through from a development standpoint, for like creating like a story that's coherent and satisfies people at the end.
Yeah.
So I get you right there. But it's like, I gotta imagine what it's like in their like boardrooms, like where they're like sitting there and they're talking about like the story when they got their storyboard. Okay, this is what's gonna happen here. This is what's gonna happen next, and this that happened before is gonna affect this, that type of shit. I really wonder what the hell is gonna be going on with that, because you got Nomura, you got Kitase over here, and sometimes I feel like they're infighting, even though they seem like they're cool.
Oh, they definitely do. They definitely do.
I feel like they have like ideas of like, this should happen this way, and then they have a vote, and then the vote majority rules and whatever. And it's cool to see that they all can still work together in that sense. It's just interesting to see. I wish we could see, like, you know, who wanted what, like what, who wanted these specific changes in particular. From what I heard, obviously the fans always make fun of Nomura and say that, you know, he's the one to blame for this or that or whatever. And then people like, I think Nomura and Toriyama blame Kitase in an interview. They were like, he actually was the one that wanted a lot of changes. We had to stop him. Like, he's crazy. So, man, the future of this shit is going to be... I'm not necessarily worried. I think that it's going to be great, personally, for me. But I do have some... Baby Seal said, I definitely guarantee they fist fought.
Yeah.
I do have some concerns as well.
Yeah. What's your biggest concern? What's your biggest? My biggest concern is I personally, like, I don't know, because I don't have the footage anymore when I first played Remake, but I was very annoyed with the over explaining that Aerith was doing at the end. Like, I feel like she was like going hella deep, and like it just kept going on, and I'm like, why she just... I get it. We gotta go beat these like fate monsters and stuff. Let's go do this real quick. And she just keeps like harping on it, you know? And it's like, I'm worried that they're gonna over explain a little too much in certain areas and kind of like not derail, but like remove the feel that you had going into like those moments. Right.
If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense to me, because that's more or less what I was getting at when I was saying that if you're looking at it as a remake, will all this exposition dump come off as like a way to kind of like dull the impact of things rather than just going directly to those points, which were already fantastically built. In fact, they were so fantastically built, that's why we're still talking about them 2 decades later.
Yeah.
But I try to think that
the business decision behind them, like tricking people into, you know, this being a reboot remake but it's actually a sequel, is like pretty crazy to me. Like, I wonder, you know, because there's a lot of people that really got blindsided by that, and they're just like, bruh, like they straight up lied to me. Like,
yeah, I was closer on that end of the spectrum too, where I was just kind of like, because I wasn't a big fan of compilation stuff. And so for me, the way I looked at it, I was like, oh God, this is going to start. Yeah.
The only compilation stuff I liked was really and truly, like, not necessarily Advent Children. I like the fights. I liked seeing the characters like fighting and shit like that. That was personally it. But when I rewatched Advent Children a few years ago, and even most recently a couple months ago, I realized that story and the voice acting and stuff is really weird.
Yeah.
The direction. But these characters aren't acting like themselves, or like how I would imagine them acting, you know?
Yeah, Remake did a lot to actually get the characters back to how they're supposed to be. Let's open up some chat questions. Would Final Fantasy XVI get more sales than FF7R? I don't know. I can't see it happening, because Final Fantasy VII itself like broke records for Square as far as like digital sales goes. Like, their digital sales, like that was like a high point for them. Well, that was because of lockdown, though. Yeah. But even so, I mean, people still would have bought, but it would have been physical, though. The name itself is kind of crazy. Like that's like, I mean, that's why they're slapping it on battle royales. Like, it brings in a crowd. You know, you hear Final Fantasy VII. I found out recently that Ninja is a big Final Fantasy VII fan. Oh wow, that's crazy. And that's actually pretty cool. And like, he loves like Secret of Mana, and he loves Legend of Legaia, and all these other crazy games. And I'm like, yo, this dude has so much more substance to him, you know? Like, don't judge a book by its cover. Yeah, Ninja like loves FF11. That's crazy. Yeah, he loves FF11. He said that like it consumed him, like from a child. Every time I hear someone talking about Final Fantasy XI, it's always like Yeah, man, I was addicted to that. And like I spent years of my life I'll never ever get back. It's so crazy. It's so different from like Final Fantasy XIV. Like every time I hear about people talking about 11, it's like that was a dark time in my life.
Yo, same thing with Maximilian as well. Like
Yeah.
I didn't even know. He said that a big reason why he doesn't play MMOs anymore, and the closest he'll get is like Phantasy Star, is because of what FF11 did to him. Like he was like super addicted apparently, and I'm like, I want to know, like, you know what? I should look up some information and like, you know, I'm pretty sure somebody has archived like the history of Final Fantasy 11, like the things to do in there, or like what really drew the crowd to it, and I would love to see that because I didn't get a chance to play it at all.
Yeah,
so I would love to like, you know, hear and like see, for example, like what about it really grasped people so hard and made them like, you know, talk about how it was a dark period in their life. yeah
it's really crazy like how addictive must have been, maybe because it was a lot of people's like first MMO experience too. I think that could have played a role in it, but the game did demand a lot of time and people were definitely like way into it back then. Going back to the question though, do I think 16 will sell more than 7R? I'll just say that it's possible, but I don't know whether or not it will for sure. I think that it totally can. I think that 15 shows how well the numbered Final Fantasies do. 15 might be at like 10 million in sales by now. 15 did really well in either case.
And also 15 was multi-platform as well. Like, you know, you had it on PlayStation and Xbox, so everybody had a chance to play it from release, whereas like FF7 and 16 so far are just going to be on PlayStation, it seems.
Yeah, that's another thing. 16 might come to PC. I'm hoping that it does.
That first initial trailer did say footage from PC or something, right?
Yeah, dude, it's totally coming to PC.
Yeah, it's got to. It looks too good. It looks too good, man.
Yeah,
it's got that Game of Thrones vibe that I like.
Yeah. 15 was like the highest selling since like maybe Final Fantasy like 7 OG. I think it might actually be at number like 2 or 3 now. So I think the mainline series is still very strong, like the numbered series, I should say. I could see it going either way. I could see 7R outselling 16, or I could see 16 outselling.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe you know, with 7R bringing so many people into the Final Fantasy verse, because there's a lot of people as well. You got to think about it too. A lot of people played Remake and they've never played a Final Fantasy game before. They never played an RPG game before, so they might be interested in what other titles Square Enix has coming out down the pipeline. So they'll see 16 and it brings a whole nother crowd that, you know, was first introduced to Remake in the way that they were, and then jump onto 16, and it might even outsell that.
The official posted sales for 15 is still at like around 9 million, but I've seen some other data that suggests that it probably has already pushed to 10 million, but Square has
I bought it twice. They got me to buy it twice.
Yeah, they got me to buy it twice too because
PC, right?
PC, yeah, that's how they always get me, and that's why with Integrate, I'm like, no, I'm not buying a PS5 just for this, also that I could buy the game a third time on. Well, I wouldn't have to buy it for PS5, but I'd have to get Integrate, but then I'd have to buy the game again on PC, and then I'd get Integrate with that. So I'm just like, you know what? I'll just wait for it to land on PC, and then I'll get Integrate with it. Chat, keep the questions coming. What else do you got for us?
Somebody unlocked the memory for me. They said 15 also had mobile sales, which is very true because I bought a Samsung phone 3 years ago, and it came with that game loaded on my phone, and I'm like, bro, I gotta uninstall this right now.
I don't know if they count Pocket Edition for the sales, but I'm curious if they will or they won't. I'm wondering if in Remake sales they'll count PlayStation Plus downloads. Because a lot of times these companies kind of inflate the numbers in order to make them look bigger than like what they like really are. So like, I mean, like even like say like with like Final Fantasy XIV, for example, they don't tell you like the number of like active people subscribed to the game. They just tell
the accounts, right?
Yeah, how many accounts. And it's just like, that doesn't really tell you, because you can just go make an account and then play the game for like 2 hours and just be like, nah. So, so it's so ambiguous as to like what it's actually like selling. Like you can never like really fully know. And Square's been like kind of weird with some of their sales numbers recently, because before, I mean, like with Final Fantasy 15, every time they hit a milestone, they would like go flex on social media about it, and now they haven't really done that. They haven't done that with like Kingdom Hearts 3 or anything, so I don't know. I imagine that Remake is at like at least 6 million by now, but who knows. Someone said that maybe 15 sold so well because it was also on Xbox. 15 sold roughly like 1 million units on Xbox, so Xbox really didn't help 15. PC did. Damn,
so 90% for real.
yeah. PC helped 15 a lot, and most of the sales were on PlayStation and PC. JRPG gamers are just not really on it. I mean, 1 million in sales for Xbox is still pretty good for a JRPG though. So let's keep going with these questions.
Who should play Vincent, Bugenhagen, and Sid in Remake? I mean, for Vincent, I'd like to see Matt Mercer.
Yeah,
like he has that voice for Vincent that just jumps out immediately at me. But for Sid, I don't know. I'll do Bugenhagen though. Or Sunamods can put me as a No, they already got Bugenhagen down.
Oh man, so out of curiosity, what are your theories on what kind of person Cloud's father was?
He's clearly the first soldier ever.
Oh no, take it back. Put it back, Lord.
Man.
No.
I remember those theories back in the day of people saying that President Shinra was Cloud's like father. Because the Shinra mansion, and Cloud's mom is like kind of still like in that town, and Rufus is probably like his half brother type of deal. But I can't see. I doubt that's the case. I think like Baby Seal said that they're going to keep that as a something they never talk about or acknowledge, that Cloud doesn't have a father. But shit, if I had to see, who knows? Maybe it's friggin' Sephiroth from the future. Who knows?
Oh no, no, God, no. I don't know how I feel about President Shinra being Cloud's father, because according to like the kids are all right. Like he did kind of mess around a lot. And I don't like Lazard from like Crisis Core. That was like
Lazard,
yeah, that's his kid. That's President Shinra's like illegitimate son.
No way, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
what happened to that?
The game?
Did he?
Yeah, I don't even remember. I think doesn't he die in Crisis Core? I know
Baby
that.
Seal
But
let us know.
Baby Seal will tell us in the chat, because I can't remember right now what happens to him. But I'm pretty sure he dies. But yeah, that's actually one of President Shinra's illegitimate children, and supposedly he has like a whole bunch throughout. But I feel like that could have been something. If that was something, if that was something like posted, then yeah. Baby Seal says 7R definitely outsold any posted numbers. By the way, if you do math on raw figures, it was at least 13 million copies.
Ooh, and he's a professor.
What math was that? I find that hard to believe, because if they had hit a number that high, they would have that we would have announced that for sure, because that would have looked too good to investors. Because that would say that part 1 sold as much as the first game, which would imply, I mean, that would just be like, they would definitely post that, because that would shoot their stocks up like hella. I find it difficult to believe that it hit. That would make it like the like best-selling Final Fantasy title. Yeah, that would have to include PS Plus downloads.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hard pressed to convince, and I'd be I'd be hard pressed to believe that it sold. It basically be the highest selling Final Fantasy ever, or at least since OG, and them not make any comment on that. Does anyone feel the opposite? I don't know, but that's
Shinra and Strife are both the same amount of letters, and they both start with S. Could
Get
be
the fuck no. I agree with Miss Lynn in the chat. I could see like 8 or 9 million, but 13 million, like not counting like PS Plus. That seems like I don't know if I believe that, because that's just like, I mean, like I find it hard to believe, because I'm like, why is that not posted? Because that's like such a staggering number. They would rush to post that so fast.
That's like me with the percentage numbers.
Baby Steel says that was profit prior to the PS Plus deal. Interesting.
Damn.
Well, we'll have to look into that, but yeah, I find that pretty difficult to wrap my head around.
How do I feel about remake content being put out on mobile with First Soldier and Ever Crisis? For Ever Crisis, I'm hella excited for. Like, just no matter what platform that game is on. I mean, I would love for it to even be released on Switch later. I'm definitely playing Ever Crisis. I think that's gonna be so cool, because I never played before Crisis, and really excited to see, like, those other ones reimagined as a turn-based RPG.
Yeah.
And First Soldier, I've been playing it a lot on mobile. I'm addicted. I'm frustratingly addicted to it. It's so good. I hate that it's on mobile, and I really do hope that BlueStacks emulator works properly for PC eventually. Lolly Bunny.
Yeah, I agree. Still want 1 through 6 to be released on all platforms. Completely agree. What changes do you think Ever Crisis will make to the compilation?
What changes? It seems like they're going to. Personally, I don't know if they're going to be making changes, because it seems like it's going to follow the original story, so to speak, like the way everybody originally wanted remake to go. And I can't see them changing the story up for Advent Children and Dirge and all those other games that have already been established in that compilation. The only changes I could really see, and I'm excited to see, is the fact that they're going to be turn-based. Like a turn-based like Dirge or Cerberus, I think is going to be amazing and play much better than the way it did. And Crisis Core as well. I mean, I love Crisis Core system, but I mean, the slots, let's be real, the slots were like but the way that they worked it into the game mechanic at the very end was beautiful.
Yeah, that was really cool. I think that a lot of people are thinking that Ever Crisis will be a sort of like the remake that they wanted. I don't think it'll be like that. I think if you're wanting like a more traditional 1-for-1 remake, or like a higher end like type of remaster situation, I don't think it'll be that. I think that it's going to be a retelling of those things. I think you're going to get into combat, and you're just going to use your units to fight, and not like you have like a set party. I think that you're going to have units that you unlock, and then
don't do that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you have to.
Don't do that.
Because
just do the weapons. Just do the weapons, like the gotcha weapons. Don't do the different characters. I don't want that.
No,
it's kind of jarring to me, like with Brave Exvius, the War of the Lion, the War of the Visions. It's kind of annoying how, like, I'll have a cutscene with like characters, and then those characters will fight, and then it's like I have Titus and Yuna and Orin in my party, and they're like not even in this universe, which I understand, it's part of the whole gotcha thing, but I don't want that for Ever Crisis. That'd be weird.
Yeah. Legions, I'm aware. Legion says that they already confirmed that it's just weapons and costumes. Yeah, we know that. We know that. But here's the thing, or here is why I don't see that being the, well, it's going to be the case that's the only gotcha, but this is all, Ever Crisis is like one coherent game, right? And the problem with weapons, and in order to be able to sell you those weapons and costumes, you'd have to be able to use them frequently enough in battle and for those characters in order to make them relevant, right? And so Dissidia Opera Omnia is a lot the same way, is that even though the units themselves are free, you still use the units that you want in battle. Like, you don't pay for any of the units in Dissidia Opera Omnia. So if it is like Opera Omnia, then that doesn't mean that it won't be the units that you're choosing to use in battle. But the reason I think that that's going to be the case is because there's a lot of compilation games and stories where having party members doesn't make sense for the combat. So for Dirge of Cerberus, you got Vincent, and that's it. So you would just be like literally only playing as Vincent in a turn-based system. That wouldn't make any sense. And so to accommodate for that, that'd make a lot more sense if you had units that you could use like any other gacha, and you use those units in combat. And
give me a Speedo Dio from Gold Saucer unit. I'm using that dude all day.
Yeah, exactly. And then that also opens up things that they could do with those units too, because then you can basically have a whole bunch of different crazy stuff, and they could do events with it, and you can even throw in different Final Fantasy characters in there, and yeah, and then they can sell you weapons and costumes for them as well. And that's kind of like what they already do with Opera Omnia, right? Yeah. And even though all the units are free.
The whole concept of Ever Crisis is so cool to me, because it's like I said, I never got a chance to play before Crisis, and it's just, for me, it's like a way to actually get to enjoy all of this media that, you know, so if you're interested in the compilation or you're interested in the story of Final Fantasy VII, it's all available in one spot.
Right.
Whereas before, it's like you had to have a Japanese mobile device to play before Crisis. You had to have a PS2 to play Dirge of Cerberus or an emulator. And just all these games are so spread out. So to me, it's like they're just basically making it like all available and easily accessible for everybody. But of course, you know, there's some paid elements behind it too.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the case, because I can't imagine, like, basically if you're retelling the entire story of Crisis Core, then you would have just Zack the whole game, and it's turn-based, and that would not make any sense. It wouldn't work. What
about that time when him and Sephiroth team up like the 2 times?
yeah.
And Sephiroth just like one-shots everything.
Yeah. Night Sky Prince and Blitz, if you had to decide to only play 7R Part 2, 16, or Endwalker, which would you pick and why? Like, if I can only play one right now?
Or forever? It's kind of an evil question.
Yeah. If it's right now, let's just assume it's like an early access thing, like right now. For me, I guess 16.
If it's forever, then for sure 14, because you're just gonna keep getting content forever. But
yeah, you'd be locked in a room with like no game to play. Yeah, you're just done. But yeah, if it's not forever though, if you could just have one right now.
Right now?
Yeah.
16. Just so much curiosity behind what that game actually is that we don't necessarily know, and it's going to be so cool to actually see, you know, what the game is and what it plays like.
Do you guys have any expectations for 16 or the rumored FF Origins?
For the rumored FF Origins, I know that it's come out that, and you've talked about it as well, that it'll take place, or it's being based in the universe of Final Fantasy 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that the whole, like, you know, Warrior of Light armor and all that stuff really does you know, mesh well with that type of like Soulsborne environment. So I'm hella excited for it. I can't wait to see, like, you know, if that is the case, how they implement magic, how they how do, like, you know, they work out like the way we interact with bosses and the people in the world, and also like multiple party members. Like, how's that going to work too? That's going to be interesting, right?
Yeah, I don't know if Origins will have multiple party.
Yeah.
I only see that being like a one guy type thing.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, that also kind of tells me that 16 might have party members, because if they're already doing something like that with Origin, I feel like they'd want to do something different with 16. I just imagine. But they could both. They could both just be single one-man type battle systems.
Legions, don't get me started on a Dragon Ball FighterZ Final Fantasy style game. Don't get me started on it,
that
man. I would love that
for so long.
Oh god, Air Guys, bring Air Guys, but make Arc System Works do it.
Yeah, we've all wanted that for some time, and I'm hoping that they do something with like, like the mainline Dissidia series. Opera Omnia has been killing it like on the gacha scene. It's super popular. Everyone who plays the game loves it. It's great. It just I just want to see that happen. Something cool happen with the main Dissidia fighting series, because we've been needing it for a long time. Persona has a good fighter. Why doesn't Final Fantasy? Guys, keep the questions coming. What do we got next? I got room for we can do 5 more questions.
Final Fantasy 16. I remember the first shot of like combat. They had like an ally in battle, sort of, but he's like a regular looking NPC. Like there was nothing special about him.
Yeah, he's a guest. He's a guest.
Yeah. So I don't know if we'll be able to control other people, but who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us E3. You got like 10 party members. It's like
there's got to be some waifus in there somewhere, man. Somewhere there's got to be some waifus. Got to throw the whole game out if there's not.
You transform into different summons, maybe. And that's the party members, different summons.
If Sid or Ketshi, were NPCs or any other character, how upset would you? So basically, if they weren't playable, how upset?
Oh, I'd be furious. Sid is one of my favorites.
Yeah, Sid, I'd be pretty livid about.
Yeah.
Ketshi, I would just be like, well, it's a remake, guys. It doesn't have to be one for one. But yeah, Sid, I'd be pretty disappointed. But yeah, I can't imagine that they would not make all the characters who are already playable not. Like, I just can't imagine. That would just disappoint so many people. Every single character, minus Ketshi, but I say that, but there is probably some like diehard like Ketshi stand out there who will like murder you for like talking down it and like base their entire
they're in my comments.
Oh, yeah,
that person exists.
Yeah, guy's like entire personality is Ketshi. Yeah, that person will be disappointed and they'll rage. So I just can't imagine them doing that. It would also defeat the purpose of the multi-game structure to me if you had to cut things like playable characters from the original. It's this is supposed to be a bigger, better version of the original, so if it's not, then
and it's kind of like one of those things like when we were kids, it defined you as a person. Like, oh, who's your main party, who's your 3 that you use? Obviously, you have to have Cloud and stuff, but for me it was always Tifa and Red 13. And I swap Vincent in there every now and then because I love me some edgelords.
I was like one of the like weird people that loved using Aerith in his party until she died on like subsequent playthroughs.
That my cousin was the same way until he found out she dies, and he was heartbroken. Like that first playthrough that I watched him play. Yeah, Aerith was like super strong. Like he loved just utilizing magic, and he always kept her in the party.
That's what makes that death like land so well, is because they give you no indication at all that she's not gonna like stick through the whole journey with you. Lily Bunny asks, what would you both like to see in Final Fantasy XVII? Type of main character, type of setting, tone, etc.
Virum Rex.
My man said, I want to see Final Fantasy 15 again, but done right this time. Oh my god. For me, Oh man, I really don't have any set things, but let me tell you some things that are going to contradict what I just said, that I don't have any set station, because I'm really open to anything. Type of main character, again, that's not something that I'm like really like strict on. I think it'd be cool to see a girl again, but she can't be like Lightning. She can't be anything like Lightning.
Yeah,
she's got to be way different than what Lightning is.
Or like a ditzy girl, like, you know, one that's like so funny and like lovable.
Yeah,
you know?
I want someone
like,
who's just like kind of like
bubbly, right?
Yeah, who's just like kind of like Girl Zach. I don't know, Girl Titus, something like that. She's just like, hey, what's up, guys? That'd be great, right?
Or like a female like Zidane that's just like a full-on flirt or some crazy shit.
Oh yeah,
we never see that.
That would actually be great though.
That would be hilarious. I think that's a shit. We should write some characters, man.
Yeah, you know. she flirts with like all the guys in the party, and they're like all part of her like harem.
Yeah.
Type of setting. I'm a really big fan of like Asian style fantasy, so like Final Fantasy X, Stormblood. I really, really like that aesthetic, and I really want to see it come back. I also like really like the like sort of like Eastern aesthetic of like Agnes Philosophy. I thought that was you never saw the Agnes Philosophy tech demo.
No.
What?
He's about to end the call right now.
yeah. No. As soon as you get off this call, you need to go see it, because it was the first tech demo that they did for Luminous Engine before they revealed Final Fantasy 15, and everyone was like, "Oh man, is this going to be Final Fantasy 15?" And no, but instead, what ended up happening is that it looks like they reused some of the philosophies and ideas behind that concept, and it looks like they applied that toward what Forspoken is now. Oh. So, and that's Final Fantasy 15's team that did all of that. So, what else do we have here? Oh, Official Crane, what's up? How do you imagine Final Fantasy 16 party system would be, or if we'll have one at all? I don't know how that party system will be. I don't even know if we'll have one at all. But I do hope that we have one, and I think that it will be very job heavy if we do. Yeah. Like I think that if we do have some kind of like party system, everyone will have like very specific jobs, and it'll all revolve around that.
Cleve is like exiled, right? That's what it seems.
Yeah. He's been branded with something, so I assume that it's like some kind of like traitor brand or something like that.
I feel like he's part of like some Night's Watch type of thing from like from Game of Thrones, where it's like you're exiled and you lay no claim to land and you abandon your last name type of deal.
That's what it seems like, because from what we know, Clive, like, he starts out like as the son of like the Duke. There's a theory that he's not the legitimate son of the Duke, though. That he's
I believe that.
Which, by the way, I believe that theory entirely, because if you watch the Final Fantasy 16 trailer, Joshua's mom. So first of all, it'd be both of their mom. If it was
just like
right,
covers her. Yeah,
right. And Joshua bows. Joshua and Jill both bow to Joshua's mom. And he doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Why would you bow to your own mom? Even like royalty doesn't really do that outside of like official settings.
Mm-hmm.
And then she like drags Joshua away, and then Joshua like looks back at Clive, and then Clive's like looking at him like being dragged away, smiling. And I'm just thinking that whole scenario makes so much more sense if Clive is an illegitimate son, and she's like mad because she doesn't like that Clive's father, went off with some other woman and produced this child. But also that's kind of like a better position for the protagonist too, to go from being like looked down upon in society to
the bread and butter of Game of Thrones, man.
Yeah.
yeah. It's the bread and butter.
Yeah.
Also, I like that too.
it feels very Final Fantasy XIV to me, to have him be like an illegitimate son and kind
it's
of
more
like,
mature too, right? It's more mature to me too. Like I feel like I'm ready for that in like Final Fantasy.
Yeah, it is very mature. I like it, and sort of dealing with that, and I think just having that alone, like that whole dynamic of him maybe being an illegitimate son, and then having the new baby mama there, and she's just like, I don't like, I don't like that Clive guy, so and she really didn't seem to like be like really well receptive to Clive. She seemed kind of like, you shouldn't be out here with these other people. She
tried to like pull them away, like, Josh, like, you don't associate with them.
Yeah, so I could totally see that, but yeah. And then I don't know if 16's a revenge story. It's kind of hard for me to imagine there being party members unless the party members also have their same reasons for revenge. So we'll see.
Illegitimate son of Smile better suits a hero.
Oh my gosh. Do you think FF Origin will have character races too? I think the designs are by Nomura, and none of his, or at least that's what the rumor says, and none of his games, or none of the games that he's done character design for, have ever had multiple races and such.
Except for robotic furries,
Yeah.
Okay,
but other than that, like, you don't. Oh yeah, and like maybe like Nanaki, but I don't know if that really counts, because I think you're talking about like on two legs, basically, like more or less, like Ronso's or Viera. Yeah.
I don't know if he has he ever. Yeah, he's never really strayed outside of that, right?
Yeah.
Outside of what he's normally accustomed to.
Yeah. I mean, like, he was hired on for like Final Fantasy like 5 and 6. Those were like the first FF games he worked on for character design, and he did yeah. I can't remember like which characters at right now, but oh, that's right, that's true. He did do Kimari. That's true. So I don't know. That's true. Yeah, technically he did Kimari, which means that that design was the foundation for the Ronso. So actually, yeah, you're right. So I don't know. It's not impossible. Normally his designs don't seem to focus on that, but maybe that's also because Final Fantasy hasn't really focused on. Baby Seal, thank you for the 1,000 bits. Oh my gosh. Final question from me, Night Sky Prince. Who do you ship in the following? FF7, Final Fantasy 15, and finally, who do you ship in the FF content creator? Oh man, that's you asked me that so I could get ratioed. Awesome. Here I come. I'm about to die.
Take a sip. Take your last sip.
Oh man. In FF7, I ship no one. In Final Fantasy 15, I ship no one. And actually, I lied. In Final Fantasy 15, I ship Noctis and Sarah from Terra Wars. Because that event, they had some real chemistry, bro. And then
that's the Dragoon chick, right? Is that the Dragoon chick?
No, that's Aranea. This was like an episode, like a 30-minute like event that got added in, like, to promote one of Sakaguchi's games. Like, yeah, this was like a year and a half after the game came out. Look up the Terra Wars event and you'll see. She's like a silver hair chick, which I guess Aranea also is, but this is a different silver hair chick. And then who do you ship in the FF content creator community? Baby Seal, I ship myself with you, obviously.
Hey, me too.
Obviously.
You guys are a match made in heaven. Yeah.
All right. Can we get 3 more questions, maybe? 3 more, my people? That's not just waifu questions. Although I
yeah, those things. Well,
I mean, I do enjoy a good waifu. I admit, but
yeah.
Let's
Shit,
see.
I'm fine if Cloud dies. I mean, I get Tifa for myself.
I know, right? Would you be excited to see a return of Final Fantasy Tactics?
Hell yeah.
I have not played Tactics. Don't kill me. But
I only recently just played it.
yeah. So, but I think it'd be cool. I think that triangle strategy is more or less the return of Tactics that you're going to be getting. May not be the one you want, but it's the one you're getting, and that's what they're doing. More or less. It could open up a possibility for them to remake Tactics though after Triangle Strategy, or try to make some sort of successor. But I think Triangle Strategy is what they're trying to do with Final Fantasy.
What else should Square be doing besides Final Fantasy? Parasite Eve remake. Parasite Eve 1 remake.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Or doing something with Chrono.
Yeah. It's a very short game, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, and they I don't think the rights to get Parasite Eve is too difficult for them compared to Chrono, right? Because Chrono, they got to go through all these like different loops with like Toei Animation and stuff, right?
I think only Akira Toriyama may have some stake in it, but I think that's it. I'm pretty sure they own pretty much everything else to do with Chrono.
I read something about how Toriyama had relieved his like ownership or some shit like that to Toei.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Yeah, don't quote me on it, but that's what I heard. That's what I was assuming. So I didn't know how difficult that would be. But a Parasite Eve remake with the FF7R battle system, Laughing Cat, me and you are best friends. Hell yeah, man.
Okay, here's a good one. While you talked about Final Fantasy XVII, which business division should develop Final Fantasy XVII? I'll let you take that one first, because I think everyone knows what I'll say.
That's such a weird vibe to see XVII. To think we're getting 17 games, man. Oh my god. What business division? Shoot. Honestly, I have no idea, and I'm so sorry. Right, because like the creative business unit is the what is it? Creative business unit 3?
Yeah, that's 14 and 16.
14, and I mean, is there a 1 and a 2 and a 4 or something like that, or what?
There's 1 through 5. It used to be it used to be 1 through 11. And then
what games? Real quick, which games did they work on, if you don't mind?
1 is Final Fantasy VII Remake. So CPU 1, that's most of like their veteran team. So if you worked on like Final Fantasy like 1 through 10, you are basically in Creative Business Unit 1 for the most part. That's like their like legacy staff. They're people who have been there for a long time. I don't remember what 2. I think 4 deals with like. Actually, hold on. I can actually just look it up real quick so we can explain this. Creative Business Units. Square. I actually forget. I used to know this really well before they all merged, and now that they merged, I really don't know them other than Creative Business Unit 1 and 3, which are like the most important. One of them is a purely like Dragon Quest. That doesn't even say. It's kind of ambiguous now, because when they merged, they also became a lot bigger than what they were, because again, it was 11 business units, and then they all got merged into one, and I don't think that they had like massive layoffs whenever they did it. So okay, yeah, Creative Business Unit 1's like remake staff. Unit 2 is they work on Bravely Default, and they also handle the Nier Replicant stuff. Like, so they do Nier, and then they also do like Octopath Traveler. So that's what CBU 2 does. And then CBU 3, of course, that's Final Fantasy 14, 16. And then CBU 4 is more or less Tokyo RPG Factory. Oh wait, no. Tokyo RPG Factory is separate. And then CPU 4 is... Actually, it doesn't even like really say what the hell. What do they do? Oh, okay, they do like a bunch of like They do a bunch of like small spin-off projects like Theater Rhythm and like Record Keeper. They've also done like they work on Opera Omnia. Oh wait, it was developed by, okay, some of these are developed by different teams, but this division still oversees it.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
I guess maybe I would like to see Division 2, maybe.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. That was actually the old list. The old list.
Oh.
I don't know. Fuck it. I can't figure it.
Whoever did the tactics one, because I want to see another Final Fantasy tactics, because monks are OP and dual wield monk is life.
Yeah, I think I can't remember if it's CPU 2 that does Dragon Quest in here or if it's 4. It's one of them. But yeah, that's basically what it is. So basically, it's really between Unit 1 and Unit 3. Like Kitase and like Nomura and those guys, and then it's Naoki Yoshida and all his people. So I struggle to believe that Creative Business Unit 1, Kitase and his team, will be free anytime in the next decade.
Yeah, they got work, man.
Yeah,
dudes. That's probably why they waited so long, because they probably wanted to complete a bunch of other projects before because they know that, like, you know, the story isn't just something they want to tell in one shot. They want to milk that shit. And are they milking it?
Yeah. Yeah. So I can't imagine that they are going to be free anytime soon. If like Final Fantasy VIII remake or anything like that happens, Final Fantasy X-3, they will oversee it, but they will not be the ones developing it, I don't think, because they are just too locked up with remake, and they're going to be locked up with remake for a long time. Yeah. So who do I think? I think Creative Business Unit 3 should be the one handling not remake. I think well, actually, but I think that they'll be the ones handling Final Fantasy 17. Actually, I think they'll be handling the mainline series going forward, while their legacy staff in Creative Business Unit 1 continues to handle like remake. So I think that's what's going to happen. And I think that's actually a good thing, by the way, because I think they have passed off Final Fantasy to too many different chefs. And now I don't even remember what Final Fantasy tastes like anymore, because too many cooks, and all these cooks have their own recipe, right? And so, I mean, while Final Fantasy used to experiment with things, now it sort of feels like every time it's not even a dish from like the same culture anymore. It's like, one day you're eating like, Mexican, and the next day it's like Chinese, and the next day it's like Ethiopian. And it's just like, there's no consistency to the flavor. So I'd actually rather see like maybe like just like one or two stable teams actually working on it consistently too. You can't improve either on your previous work when you're constantly changing not only the directors, but how the games fundamentally are designed to.
That's what happened in Parasite Eve 2 and 3. Yeah.
And so like Final Fantasy like 1 through 10, for example, right? They weren't that different. Like they changed things up with like progression and like the setting and the characters.
You're exactly right.
Yeah. But like Final Fantasy 1 through 10, more or less, they were just trying to improve on the same thing each time. Final Fantasy didn't gain a reputation for being fundamentally different each game until like relatively recent.
And boy, are they different, man. We got Battle Royales, we got mobile games, we got some mobile games that are tactics, and some action games, and more action games, and
I can't even name like another game series that like does that, where it's like every other game it's like, nah, we're gonna do something like completely different genre.
For 17, I would like to see like a city, like a modern setting, type of like setup, kind of like what Yakuza. Like when I was watching you play Yakuza, and man, that concept is so funny to me. Yeah, it's like the dude with the umbrella is the what was he? He was the mage, right?
Yeah, he's the mage. Yeah. And it's really cool because they made that work in the modern setting, and more or less that's kind of like what Versus was kind of doing, at least in like its opening hour. So yeah,
he summoned pigeons on them too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then there's one where like he like lights them on fire, like he like pours like gasoline on him, and then he blows on his lighter and like lights him on fire.
See, that type of shit is amazing.
Oh yeah, and then like you can like actually like call like a friend, and like that's your summon, so you can like yeah, it's called like pound mates, which is funny enough as it is kind of an innuendo in there, but like yeah, you can call up a homie, and like your homie actually like rolls up and like helps you like jump this dude, and I'm just like, this is great. This is great, man. Like, oh man, like I just want to like I think back on like all like, you know, like the hard like tough like gangster dudes like I ever met in my life, and I wish I had like kept contact with like one of them so I could show him like Yakuza 7 and just like watch them like react. Like I wish there was like some like rapper or something that was out there, and like he would just like
promoting it.
Yeah, like yeah, just like playing like Yakuza 7, because I'd watch their reactions to that. Like, oh man,
Soldier Boy has to do it, man. Soldier Boy has to play. Yeah. I'm the first.
Oh god, yes. Let's keep going. Can we get 2 more questions? This is a half question. Speaking of taste, how excited for that new Intergrade Red Bull? You're pretty excited.
Yeah. I'm gonna probably be on like 10 of those right before the game drops.
Oh wait, is there like literally is that a pun on my recipe thing, or is there literally an Intergrade Red Bull?
No, it's an Intergrade Red Bull. I saw an advertisement for it today.
Oh, there's a literal Intergrade Red Bull. Okay, I missed that. That's
any theories on Forspoken? I don't know. Like the game just looks so crazy. It's just like I want to see like what more of the combat really looks like, and what the hell are we doing? Like this girl's surprised to see a dragon, so she's definitely not from that place that she's at right now.
Yeah.
Or did the dragon come to her? I don't know.
And she talks very modern too.
Yeah. So I have high hopes for it, but yeah. I'm not gonna be crushed to like, you know, if it's not executed well. I think that like, you know, them using a female of color as well for like their main character, I think that's really dope, and I hope to see that as a trend going forward. You know, I think that's really cool. Maybe you know, Guyanese people like myself will get better representation in video games rather than what they gave us in Metal Gear Rising.
That's what I'm saying, bro. They should do like Final Fantasy, maybe like Middle East, like Southeast Asia, like it's inspired aesthetic.
Oh hell yeah,
dude! I think that'd be so. And that's actually why I told you to go watch like Agnes Philosophy, because they actually do pull from that. Because it is I wrote it down. Yeah, it's a Final Fantasy tech demo, right? And so it's so cool because you actually see them using that setting in like Final Fantasy. And before 16 was announced, a lot of people were like, God, I want 16 to be this because it's so fresh and it looks so cool. And it's so different from like European fantasy, which we've seen like over and over and over again. So yeah. It's just
something refreshing, man. Final Fantasy Arctic combat. Just like, you know, just go way south or north.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. That's why I love Stormblades, because they draw from something different than just, you know, like medieval Gothic style. So we'll get a taste. Oh, that's right, that's true. With Endwalker, we're getting a taste of that with Fafnir, because there's actually like a lot of Indian inspiration for like Fafnir, at least from what I can tell. Snap. Yeah, it's really cool. That's what I love about 14, man, is that like they pull from like everywhere. A lot of people just look at like A Realm Reborn and it's just like, you know, medieval, but like that whole
the whole scale of the rest of it isn't really like that.
Yeah, like it like there's like cyberpunk areas, steampunk areas. There's so much stuff in that world. Okay, we need one last question. It needs to be a big juicy one.
A spicy one.
Yeah. Needs to be the spiciest one. Ask the most controversial question you could possibly think of. The one.
I see baby still typing. Yo, Sunomods, man. I am hella excited for you guys' future projects, dude. That stuff that you like. I was on his stream the other day checking out where he's at right now with his Final Fantasy VII mods, and he was showing us little pieces of like the new shadows, and he was showing us like the voices and stuff. Man,
it's amazing.
I can't. Yeah, it's some real phenomenal stuff, dude. I can't wait to see, when that drops and me replay this game all over again for the very first time, basically, because it's got voices now.
Yeah, it's so cool. So cool. And now they're trying to do it with Final Fantasy VIII after they finish 7. I'm just like, oh my gosh. So
yo, let's be characters in there, bro.
Dude, I'm ready.
I'll be Zell. You could do Squall.
Yeah, Squall, that'd be terrible. I'm too my voice is too chipper. Okay, I'll take this one. One question, any predictions for Endwalker? Zodiac is the moon. Is that not a prediction? I think that's kind of obvious at this point, but I feel like Zodiac is in the moon. That's the whole context of the moon. I also think that Heidelin is gonna look like the bad guy, or will be the bad guy maybe.
I have no ideas on it, actually. All I've seen is the trailers, and I'm still in 5.2.
Oh man.
So seeing the direction of where they're heading into now, ooh, man, I'm excited. So the next few months, I'm definitely going to be, I'm going to become the Final Fantasy XIV sweat that I used to be.
Oof! Can't wait for it.
Except this time, pay more attention to the lore.
Yes. Yeah, you can if you need to refresh, you can go to the end and rewatch all the cutscenes. So there's also New Game Plus available too now, and it's in parts too.
Really?
So yeah, so you don't even have to like replay like the whole thing. If you just want to be like, say like I want to like re-experience like the ending of Stormblood, you can just do let me replay Stormblood Part 4. And it'll just be like from then on. So it's really cool.
That's a great idea. I might actually do that just so I can relearn how to use a keyboard for MMOs, because I've become a clicker. I'm an MMO clicker where I use the mouse and I click all my spells individually. And it's a bad habit to have because you get tunnel vision. You can't see what spells are coming up and whatever. I still do really good DPS regardless, but I wanna actually be able to utilize the keyboard a little bit more. The way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm a controller guy. I hate
controllers. Good though. They made the game very well for controllers.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, even some of the top raters actually play controllers. So,
yeah, it's phenomenal.
I got these last 2 questions, and then that's locked. So because both of them are pretty good. Lily Bunny asks if you could erase any Final Fantasy, which would it be? And you can't say 10-2. I would not say 10-2. 10-2 is far from the worst Final Fantasy they put out.
Damn, that's a tough question. Jeez.
I would erase a couple actually.
Downstorm says Type 0.
There's a couple I would actually give a
erase?
list. A list? Okay, I'll give mine like while you're thinking. 13, the entire compilation of Final Fantasy VII aside from the original game. Yeah, mostly those 2. Yeah, I would erase the entire the entire 13 actually no, I'd keep 13 too. So I would just
it's good.
Yeah, 13
I never played 13, so
yeah, don't. Don't.
Hey, I got a lot of people that are anticipating my highly requested playthrough of 13 1-3.
When you play that trilogy, you'll understand why I don't trust Square with that team specifically with doing multiverse.
Okay. We'll have to see it.
Yeah.
Erase Final Fantasy VIII. See, I can't do that. Because that's the first Final Fantasy I ever owned, and I got it in a very hilarious way.
So you would not erase anything.
Shit, I mean, I've only played from 6 to I didn't play 12. I didn't play 6. I played 6. I didn't play 12. I didn't play 13.
You've only played the good ones. That's why.
I've only played the good ones. So
You've only played the good
ones. What's Final Fantasy 1 through 5 like?
Yeah. 1 through 5 are also pretty good. A lot of them haven't aged well, but well, granted, I've only played like 4 from like 1 through 5. I have not played 1 through 3 or 5, but that's the general consensus, is that they were great games for their time, but not necessarily have aged the best. But 4 and 5 are of 1 through 5, 4 and 5 are the ones that are the best and have aged well and are still recommended for you to play to this day.
4 is with Cecil Harvey.
Yeah. And so I don't know if you caught this because you never played 4, but like in the Shadowbringers trailer, you know how Warrior of Light's like Dark Knight, and then he goes to be like a paladin and Endwalker. That's actually a reference to Final Fantasy IV, because Cecil, he starts the game as a Dark Knight and then he becomes a paladin.
I downloaded that one to play it. I remember when back in like emulator days, I downloaded that to play it, and I never like, it never grabbed me, so I didn't like really keep on with it. Now that you mentioned that, yeah, I do remember that.
I recommend 4. It's very classic. It's this is gonna upset people. It's what I call the first Final Fantasy. I jokingly call it that, but it's the first Final Fantasy to introduce all the things that we associate with Final Fantasy now. So it's the first one to have ATB. It's the first one to have like summons. It's the first one where the story took priority over like, say, like characters like having like jobs and stuff. Everyone has like this fixed role and stuff. And so basically like Final Fantasy's like identity as we think of it now in modern terms really started with like FF4. Although that's not to say that like 1 through 3 didn't.
I could appreciate that, yeah.
Right.
I could appreciate that, yeah.
Yeah. Like 1 through 3 did establish like a lot, but it's just like 4 like really 3 did have summons. Okay, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. 3 did have summons. I thought that was introduced in 4. Again, I haven't played 1 through 3, but that's just knowing the history. That's what I feel like, is that 4 kind of established what we have come to expect from Final Fantasy.
And I always get confused when we talk about 6 and 3, like, because everybody calls it something different because of the localization release, right?
Yeah, but normally nowadays it's pretty unusual to hear someone call
6-3.
Yeah, hear it called 6-3. And the last question here is from Baby Seal, who asks, "What do you want to see changed in Remake from the original?"
In Remake from the original?
Like what is something that was in the original in Remake that you actually do want to see changed? Like beyond like, you know, like I guess gameplay stuff, like story wise.
Yeah, I gave this answer on his stream, but I don't want to give the same one, so I'm trying to think of something different. You can go first if you want.
Boy, something I do. A lot of the stuff that I do want to see change, they're already changing. Like this stuff, like the war with like Wutai, for example, like emphasizing like stuff like that. I think that's really cool. It's just that they're also emphasizing a lot of stuff that I think just does not belong. But man, that's actually a really tough question. One thing I do want to see changed, boy, it's a good question, but it's so hard to answer.
What? It is hard to answer. I don't even remember like how the hell did I answer that the last time.
Yeah. But I'll tell you this much though: the fact that we don't instantly come up with something like right away is a testament to how good the original was written, right?
Yeah.
And so
because I'm replaying it right now, and it's like I can't think of a moment where I'm like, damn, I wish this was better, or like, you know, that's a tough one, bro. It's hard to say. It's not like I wouldn't change anything. It's just hard to actually pick a specific moment because they're all so great, I think. And I feel like whatever they decide to change will be good, because the quality that they've been going at with these games, and well, Remake in particular, it's been pretty solid overall.
I'll say this, aside from the changes that they're already making, because from my perspective, it's a mixed bag. I think there's some things that were like exceptionally well changed, like Wall Market. Wall Market in Remake is infinitely better than the original Wall Market. I don't think that there's any contest there. And then I look at things like the Sector 7 plate, the entire build up to it, before and after, and everything there. Like, I just feel like was extremely inferior to what the original did, or like the Blood Trail, for example, or President Shinra's death. So it's a mixed bag for me with what changes. I do want to see and don't want to see. I feel like whatever they do change or don't change, it's going to be something that is so unpredictable that it's just not going to be something that we could have even like seen coming. Like, all the changes that we did see coming, like aside from like Wall Market, we all knew that Wall Market in its original state was just not going to work. But aside from that, all the changes that they did make in Remake were not ones that I could have saw in like a time machine. Like, if I or could have saw without a time machine, I should say.
Yeah, the other, I just remember the other change that I talked about. It was like seeing more stuff, and somebody actually wrote it right here.
Yeah.
Seeing more stuff about Marlene's backstory, like with and also like Barrett's wife. And I want to see more of like Mount Corell's like backstory as far as like Diane's wife goes, because she's definitely an ancient of some sort. Because he even says in the original game, I can hear her voice telling me not to hate your guts. And obviously Marlene has this weird connection with Aerith that they're definitely going to be exploring more in Remake, and they've been kind of like alluding to that since Advent Children even too. Yeah,
they were because AC had like a real focus on Marlene.
Yeah, so I definitely think that we're going to see some really cool stuff come out of Barrett's whole arc in that segment too, and I can't wait to see how much more deep they take it.
Yeah, I will just say I hope that if they continue to implement more compilation stuff, which they're definitely going to do, that they are sensible about how they do it, which I think the general consensus has been that they have been fairly sensible. There are some people who are kind of on edge about how they'll handle Nero and Vice. I don't know how they'll handle them. I don't think that those characters should have existed in the first place, if I'm honest. But we'll see. We'll see. Having them show up in the DLC is not a deal breaker for me. So I don't think it's like the worst thing.
Maybe they'll find a way to make you fall in love with those characters.
I doubt it. I think they'll come up with a way to not make me cringe at them, which is fine. Like, I'll settle for that. Like, me not going like, oh God. Which I think that's what Genesis is like my biggest fear. I think Genesis is everyone's biggest fear when it comes to like what they're gonna do, because they're gonna have to have more antagonists and stuff for all of these games. They can't just have Sephiroth every time. Well, they can, but I think having Sephiroth or Genova as the final boss for full-length video games every single time is just like...
Yeah, it's just like, come on, there's got to be something more, man. Give me Roche like with like Genova experimented juices inside of him that like make him crazy.
I think he should have been the final boss for the first game. Okay,
I could see that. I mean, I think that they had plans to have him included at the end, but they felt like with the direction that they were trying to take it, he didn't fit the mood of the seriousness nature, I guess.
Yeah, because like the way I would have done it, right, would I would have been like, Rosh basically would have been the setup for Sephiroth, right? So he would have been like this, like they could have like juiced him up with some Genova cells, something, right? And he would have basically been like an example of like what it means to go against Soldier. So you would have had like super powerful guy, super difficult boss fight, talking about party barely survives managing to take this guy down. And then that would have set the tone for Sephiroth, because it's like, you know, if we struggled this much with taking down this third class guy who got souped up, then what is like fighting Sephiroth gonna be like? And that's how I would have contextualized if I was the director of Remake. That's kind of the approach I would have took. Because then you would have been looking at Sephiroth like, oh my god, he's like 2 leagues above the guy that we barely survived this fight against.
Yeah, and then in the next game we see the Midgar Zolom scene, and it's just like, oh shit, this dude he did that shit with one hand, what?
Right, and then it add even more context to like Sephiroth's strength without like playing the Sephiroth card too early, because and gosh dude, I think about like One Winged Angel, and I'm like, what version of One Winged Angel are they going to come up with that actually tops the remake version of One Winged Angel?
A better Birth of a God.
Like
Birth of a God's an amazing song.
I do love Birth of a God. It's good. Yeah.
They just keep forgetting about it because it's like it's Bizarro Sephiroth. When you fight him and then you go into Safer Sephiroth, it's just much more iconic because he comes down like a deity, you know?
Yeah. So
and it's just a shorter fight.
But it's crazy though to think that they'll have to surpass that, and also surpass the spectacle, because spectacle creep is like real for them right now. Because how do you make the spectacle better for the next final boss fight when you were fighting Sephiroth like on like these floating pieces of debris above Midgar, and like, you know,
they tell us it was just a Sephiroth clone all along.
yeah, and then like this and then like
it was Marco.
Yeah, and then like, you know, Fate incarnate, which you can more or less think of as like a god, is like standing like above like everything and like coming down. And so I'm like, okay, like, you know, like what else what else do you build up to after you've done this? So I try to imagine that in my head, but there's nothing. But I don't worry about spectacle, because like someone's saying in chat, Nomada's very good at spectacle. They'll come up with something, but I don't know how they'll continue to increase the spectacle across 3 to 4 games, assuming because I don't know if this will be a trilogy anymore. I really feel like they might be aiming at like 4 games, maybe even 5.
Yeah, I could see 4 for sure.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. How can you make the music more epic? Just ask Soken. The Joshka, I would fucking love if Soken would write a battle track for Remake. That'd
be sick. What if they got that in the works right now? That'd be sick.
Oh, that'd be so sick. I would love that. I don't know if he can, because he's composing 14 and 16 at the same time.
He's like completely booked.
He's busy, man. But I would freak out if they could, because his battle themes are just like next level.
Mike from earlier asked if he was saying that I should play Final Fantasy XII. I am going to play Final Fantasy XII on my channel. Right now we're going through all the old school Final Fantasies. Like we went through, well, not all of them, but we did from 6 all the way, and right now we're at Tactics, and then we're going to do 8, 9, 10, 12, 13's compilation, and 15 and stuff. So right now we're at Tactics, so 8's gonna be starting soon. So definitely check out the channel, youtube.com/BltzZ, if you want to see that playthrough of 12. It'll probably be like maybe towards the middle of July, I think, at the rate that I'm going at.
Awesome. And I think we're wrapping up here. So if you came here from BltzZ, again, I'm the Night Sky Prince. You can find me here by hitting that follow button, or I guess you'll find the VOD for this when it makes its way to YouTube. Blitz, I want to thank you so much for coming, man. You are, I've admired your work from afar for a long time. Sorry if you hear me typing. I was typing in the raid command, but I've admired your work from afar from like a long time. I always thought, since I personally had stopped doing like the remake updates and the news videos, if you are from my community and you were still looking for someone who does that type of content, who does it passionately, who does it to the same level or even better than what I was doing. Definitely recommend checking out this guy. He does that. Videos are phenomenal. So yeah, if you want more of that, what I was kind of doing with classic NSP 1.0, yeah, you could definitely check my guy Blitz out here. I cannot recommend him enough.
Bro, I appreciate that, man. You are so dope. Like I said, man, it's like a full circle type of deal. Like I saw you last year and I was like, yo, this guy's on it, man. He's good. And to be sitting here chatting with you and like, you know, considering you a friend within the community, I think that's something really special. And it's crazy to just shows that, like, you know, your hard work, no matter what media it is that you're in, it doesn't go unnoticed. Like, you know, just no matter how small you might think you are, there's always, you know, the other people that recognize you and realize your hard work and can help bring you up even more, not just like, you know, numbers wise, but just like quality of life. So I feel like since I've been talking to you, overall it's been improving like my whole mentality on like the community and just giving me more of a drive to upload and create different type of content. And I think that's really something crazy. And it's like cool because this is just like the first year, you know, who knows, like, you know, 5 years down the line, you never know, we might be in our own Final Fantasy game. I'm joking, I don't know.
Oh bro, we are like, you know, next time, like once the gaming conventions are open, we're gonna meet up at like a PAX or something. We're gonna have a King's Feast while we're at PAX. I've been wanting to go to more. I go to PAX South a lot because it's like right there in like San Antonio, and I live in Texas, so it's usually like a 4 or 5 hour drive for me. But you know, I'm looking to go to more PAXs, so let's go to a PAX next time.
Oh, for sure, dude. Like I've only gone to local I've only been to like SuperCon in my area, and I'm fiending to go out and like, you know, meet everybody else, like, you know, in the community and like all that stuff. So I'm excited for it, dude.
That's the place to do it. They had like Remake there, like before it came out. It was like right when the pandemic was starting too. And I think Soldier, like, he flew out there and he got to meet like Neil Pabone and like all the voice actors and stuff. That's cool. So that was when he sat on the bike, right? And I saw he had a Buster Sword on his back. Yeah.
He had posted a picture. I was like, yo, where the hell is this dude? That's sick.
Yeah, that was at PAX Prime.
Cool.
So that should set the tone for how hype that is. So yeah, we should go.
Well, for sure, man. Even
we'll make a video there.
Mr. John Bentley said that. I mean, he said he'll definitely hang out with us. You know what I mean? So I think that's gonna be pretty dope.
Oh man, that would be cool. I love Mr. Bentley.
Yo, he is he's a special person, man. That dude is so awesome. Like he's built different.
Yeah, dude. He has like this, like, he's got like this fatherly love to him. I feel like I'm talking to, like, you know, I have a great father, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I'm talking to like another dad. Like when this is like my alternative universe father.
He's Uncle John. Yeah. He's Uncle John.
Yeah. He's just like loaded with like life wisdom. I just have like a lot of respect for him. Me and him went off on a crazy tangent because he saw the Michael Jackson poster and he was telling me how he used to hang out with Prince back in the day, and I was like, what? You used to hang out with Prince? Are you kidding me? And he's telling me all these stories about when he grew up and he would go to the clubs with them and, like, you know, be hanging out with Prince, and I'm just like, yo, that's insane. You live a life, my guy. Like, yeah, that's another thing I like about him too. He just has like stories, like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's lived. Yeah. He's lived a life, and I'm just like, oh, this is just cool. I don't know. Yeah. I love people like that with like real life experience. You can always learn something from them.
Yeah.
But all right, we are going to raid my friend. We're gonna raid Tiffany Lockhart. I think she's playing like RE4. I love you guys. We'll be back. Well, not me. I will be back. Blitz.
I'll be back. Anytime you want me, man, I'll come back, man. I got all these PS5s here I'm giving away, so you know, make sure you guys check out the channel. We're doing a PlayStation 5 giveaway right now. Members get plus 10 entries to it, that sort of deal. You'll see it on my channel if you go check it out on YouTube. But good luck and all that stuff, and I'll definitely be bringing more PS5s for NSP's communities to have a chance to try to win that as well.
Oh wow, yeah, we appreciate it. You know. So if you want If you want a PlayStation 5, you need one to play Intergrade, or you're hearing about that Final Fantasy Origin demo that you want to check out, you need to hit up Blitz, bro. That's what you need to do.
I got you guys.
He's got you.